Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, episode 21 with Daniel Rose of Grassroots Ranch.
Seeing it at the scale or where you'd like it to be at, and being able to work backwards from there to know where to start and exactly how to start, I think is probably the most significant thing.
You're listening to the Grazing Grass Podcast, helping grass farmers learn from grass farmers. On today's episode, we're talking with Daniel Rose of Grassroots Ranch. He didn't grow up on a farm, but he found his passion on a farm. He read Joel Salatin's book, You Can Farm, and that's just what he did. Daniel, we want to welcome you to the Grazing Grass Podcast. We're excited you're here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your operation?
Yeah. So my wife and I started Grassroots Ranch back in 2014. And we started it just north of downtown Tulsa. We were actually only 15 minutes from downtown. And so we kind of got to enjoy starting out, but still being close to town. And we, from the start, made it our goal to try to provide kind of the full spectrum of meats for customers and sell it all retail. And so we do grass-fed beef, forested pork, pastured chicken, and pastured free-range eggs as well. And we sell all that online. We've also done the farmers market, although we didn't do that this past year. But yeah, we now sell pretty well exclusively online, and we do home delivery. So we've grown quite a bit. We started with just a few cows, few chickens, and we were on about I guess there's maybe only 20 or 30 acres of pasture at our original place, and we've now moved on to a larger property, a second lease that's about 15 times the size of our first one.
Yeah.
So we're definitely growing into it.
Very nice. Now, when you started in 2014, did you have a farm background at that point?
No, not at all. I have no farming background. Nobody in my family had any sort of agricultural background. This was all completely new. The closest thing that I had was I did a lot of camping and outdoor stuff in high school. I did Boy Scouts, and one of the, I guess, more fascinating parts of it was survival camping and stuff like that. So living off the land, and that's kind of what led me into looking into agriculture and just kind of that producing your own food and anything else.
Oh, yes. When you decided to produce your own food, have a farm, what process did you go through? Did you, and what I'm thinking is, how'd you educate yourself, and then how'd you get your first livestock and farm?
Yeah. So what I guess first made me kind of take that leap from looking at just living off the land to agriculture was my friend lent me a book from Joel Salatin, You Can Farm, and
yes.
And so I quickly read through that and definitely was inspired to kind of start things up from the from nothing. And so from there, I interned on a sheep farm just north, about 45 minutes north of Tulsa, and got a little bit of experience and just kind of my feet wet there. And then I was able to find 10 acres that somebody was generous enough to let me put some sheep on, and I bought 10 sheep and raised them on there for a bit. And then from there, happened upon the lease where we started the ranch at, which was north of Tulsa with a bit more land. And that's where we, were able to get a few cows and some chickens and pigs and kind of start to grow it there.
Now you're not doing sheep currently?
No. So we started with sheep. I bought 10 wool sheep, and then kind of quickly got tired of having to shear them,
Oh, yes.
and bought some more Katahdin sheep, some hair sheep, and then when we moved on to our new property, I think by that time, let's say, I guess we did buy a few more sheep there, but had grown it about 100 sheep there, and we were trying to do direct market, sell whole lambs, and but we just kind of struggled with finding enough interest there, because it was just kind of word of mouth and email at that point, and so, but we got plenty of people asking about eggs and chicken and the stuff is much more common in the States. And so we decided at that point that it was maybe best to shift, and did away with the sheep at that point, which we still would love to get back into sheep again, and hope to maybe as early as next year, because it was definitely a lot of fun in lambing season, just seeing all the lambs running around and everything. But from there we kind of shifted and went towards more of I guess conventional products.
Right. Marketing in Oklahoma, beef and pork's a little bit more culturally aware.
Yeah. Since then, I've come across a few people who have had really great success with sheep or goats, but they have to kind of have that in with a really niche market. But yeah,
I find especially with my goats, people's like, why do you raise them? Okay, so you're not my market.
Yeah.
So when you first got those sheep on the 10 acres, were you using regenerative practices? Were you using planned grazing?
We quickly started to, work towards setting that up. We tried to set up some electric fences, with kind of mixed success. We didn't really have a way to train the sheep to an electric fence, and so it didn't work out too well. But I think we ended up subdividing that with more permanent fences, using some field fence, and trying to do some bit of rotational grazing, because as soon as we got on there, we I guess for one, horses had been on there for a long time, just kind of continuous grazing that, and so there was a lot of weeds. Thistle had really popped up and was encroaching in pretty rapidly, and so we were trying to look at ways we could do that, but also do it naturally, and so we got to get some experience, or got some start in time trying to do rotational grazing there.
I think sheep's a great starter animal in that, with the big caveat there is electric fences with sheep sometimes takes some work.
Yeah, that was something we figured out later, and eventually we got pretty successful at it. I think the key there is definitely having a pen or something set up to train them to it. But, and having that we had no luck with the wool sheep. They always were able to figure out how to get through there, and they were pretty well insulated from it.
Yes, they are. So then you moved to when you moved north of town and a little bit bigger acreage, were you still sheep at that point, or did you start introducing cattle and poultry at that point?
We still were doing sheep. I think even at that point we actually still had both the wool sheep and the hair sheep. And then I think the next thing we did was we bought just a handful of chickens, because again, my wife and I had no experience in that, and so we only started with about 10, and just to figure out what we don't know. And then I believe our next purchase after that were the cows, which the person who owned the property helped us out on that purchase, as far as we told him we wanted to help manage the property using the cattle, and they were willing to kind of put the money up for that to get their own beef out of it at the end of it. So that worked out well, and it was kind of and that's one of the reasons we went with sheep to begin with as well. It's just lower capital and grow rapidly. Yeah, so we pretty quickly kind of piled everything on, which I don't know if that was actually probably the best way to do things. It was a very big learning curve, and having to do that with every aspect of livestock was a lot. And I feel like probably only within the last couple of years we've kind of caught back up to where I would like to be as far as being pretty well educated and having a good understanding of how to effectively raise all those classes of livestock.
I understand you there, Daniel. My wife gets on to me for jumping into the deep end all the time.
Yeah. I tend to go out and try to do it before actually reading anything about it.
You learn quickly, though.
Yeah. Definitely.
So you got a few cows. Did you?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of cows did you get to start with?
I think that first year, I think we went with we bought some roping cattle.
Oh yes.
A little embarrassed to say. Like I said, I tend to go into it before reading anything about it, and looking back and just kind of laugh at it. But yeah, we kind of I guess starting out, we had the mentality of go the opposite direction of conventional, and so we were like, well, then we shouldn't do Angus or beef type. We should do something that's very supposed to be very well adapted and
right,
hardy and all of that. And so yeah, we went with some roping cattle. It's like Longhorn Corriente mix, and they probably weighed I don't know, 400 pounds, and we probably paid too much for them. And I think they probably only weighed about 450 pounds the next year when we sold them. So, not the best start there. And kind of each year we've gradually moved, I guess, further and or closer and closer back to the mainstream there. And but yeah, that was our first purchase of cattle, and we advertised it as grass fed, and because we tried to do rotational grazing there and raise them strictly on grass, and the grass there was pretty marginal the first year. There we had a lot of ragweed, western ragweed, and it kind of shaded out most of everything. I think I remember that first year it being about 6 feet tall where the cattle would go into it and you couldn't even see them. So we didn't put a whole lot of weight on those cows. But we did, we realized that year that we had customers that truly their main focus was, natural grass-fed beef, and beef that's extremely lean. That's exactly what we sold. It was maybe a little bit tough and kind of all had to be cooked in a crock pot, but we had a number of those customers, come back the next year wanting more grass-fed beef. And so we have continued on from there.
Well, very good. Jumping on those roping cow or Corriente, I'm not sure I'm saying that correct. Someone I was talking to was talking about breeding those with South Pole, and they make a nice grazing animal.
Yeah.
In fact, they promoted it well enough that I've been looking at Craigslist.
Yeah. No, I'd imagine so, and that's something that I think where I'm at now is. Well, I'll say where I was at before was kind of starting with something like a Corriente herd and wanting to breed into beef genetics, but I think I might have kind of be on the opposite side of that now of still would love to dabble in adding in genetics like Corriente and stuff like that for the heat tolerance and all of that. But yeah, I think for a little while was kind of found the list of all the certified Coriente producers in Oklahoma, and
Oh, yes.
wanted to go out and check out all of their operations. But yeah.
So what kind of cattle are you running now?
Right now we have mostly South Pole steers, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done a number of different breeds. We don't breed any of our cattle.
So you buy all feeders or stockers?
Yeah.
Yes.
We because we've been on lease property and kind of haven't always, I guess, known exactly what our pasture availability will be. We've put on hold buying any breeding stock. But yeah, we've done the Corientes, we've done Black Angus, and we've done the South Pole cattle. We've got South Pole right now. And let's see. I think last year we did Black Angus heifers. This year we did South Pole steers. And seeing the difference it's been a lot of learning there. There's definitely a difference in heat tolerance as far as the South Pole being able to be out in the heat a bit more than the Black Angus.
Yes.
And I guess I should also say we also have some heifers that are a British white Mashona cross.
Okay.
A neighbor of ours, he does grass-fed cow-calf operation, so we buy heifers off of him each year, and been happy with those. I can definitely say that finishing out the heifers was quite a bit easier than the steers. It's been a little bit more of a challenge, and also we had a bit more of a challenge in transitioning from one property to the next. We just moved on to the current property that we're on about a year ago, pretty well last February. And so it's been an adjustment, kind of getting fences and things like that set up here, and also learning the different types of grass, and even just kind of figuring out what's really available there.
Talking about your current place and getting it set up, what kind of fencing was on the place and what do you have now?
When we got here, it was subdivided into a number of probably about 4 different pastures, for the most part, anywhere from maybe about 50 acres to 120 acres.
Yes.
And all of it was pretty well kind of dilapidated barbed wire fence. Some of it, was able to hold cows, and some of it wasn't. And so pretty quickly we have set off to try to replace as much of the interior fencing with just single strand electric fence. And we just use a 12 gauge aluminum wire, and have used the T-posts that we pull up from the old barbed wire fences, and have run that in as many areas as we can, and gotten almost there. I think we'll be able to finish up kind of subdividing the all the area that we currently use this winter, and will be, I think, set up to be a lot more successful this coming year.
Do you have a goal with your interior fencing? Are you trying to make pastures a certain size, or are you trying to make them so you can use polywire with them? What's your plan?
Yeah, so trying to get them set up to where we can subdivide them with polywire. So we also use that. This past year, because we didn't have any electric fence or even wires kind of going out into different areas, we kind of just did a little bit of rotational grazing, but pretty well it was just continuous grazing. And so now we're trying to get that down to as small an area as we can. I think recommended grazing is I want to think it's 24,000 pounds per acre or something like that. So trying to get it down to where we can subdivide areas into that size.
Oh, yes.
And so, like we've taken a number of, say, 40-acre areas, and we'll divide that in half to where there's two kind of rectangular 20-acre sections, so we can use that poly wire to subdivide it down even smaller and really get intensive grazing through pastures. So part of that is just from also trying to manage a lot of the weeds and stuff out here, and wanting to get it. We spent a lot of time last year brush hogging, and I'd like to spend less time this year doing that, and hopefully get more of that accomplished through grazing.
So what kind of forages do you have on your land? And I realize it's fairly early in your management there. So
yeah. So what we definitely have a pretty big variety, and a little bit of background from what I can gather on the property we're on now is that it's, I guess years ago, a good part of it was cultivated. I think they grew wheat and alfalfa and things like that. And then since then, as far as I know, at least the last 10 years, it's pretty well all been hayed without any sort of applications or supplementation. And so pretty well, pretty worn down pasture. When we got here, it was lacking in kind of any sort of cool season grasses, just because of it constantly being mowed down so short. And so one grass that, definitely predominant here is broom sedge.
Yes.
Which we didn't really have at our previous property, and so I wasn't really aware of it. During the growing season, it looks almost identical to blue stem. And so for a little bit there, I was kind of excited that we had, nice, thick blue stem pastures. And then realized that for some reason the cattle wouldn't touch them. And so that was a bit disappointing. And actually,
that would be a letdown. Yes, it would.
It did really set us back over the winter last year. And one of the big errors that I made was not getting our hay tested, because when we kind of moved on here, they had one of the neighbors had bailed the property. We did a share, and they left us some of the hay. And again, thinking it was blue stem mix, thought it would be pretty decent hay. But only realizing this year it was pretty much all broom sedge, and so kind of shed light on why we did not have much success last year in keeping our cattle well fed. But so we got a lot of broom sedge, which we're trying to kind of cut back through brush hogging, grazing, and then we've had a lot of cool season grasses pop up just through this past year through allowing.
Very nice.
We didn't bale anything, and so just through kind of going 1 year without baling, we saw a lot of cool season grasses like fescue and clovers pop up in the pasture, and pretty happy to see that pretty quickly that those seeds were there, and just giving it the ability to pop up, that they came in. We've also got Johnson grass. We do have some a little bit of actual blue stem. Remember seeing some Cerisa lespedeza out in the pasture. Let's see, another grass that's new to us was giant ragweed. We didn't have that where we were at northern Oklahoma, but so that's been an interesting, I guess, challenge to I say deal with it. It seemed like that we were able to graze it pretty well, but it did get out of control, and brush hogging that down with it being, at least 8 feet tall was quite a chore. And so it definitely got ahead of us, but when we did graze the cattle through, they seemed to graze it pretty well. I tried to find out what the kind of feed value of it was, but wasn't able to find much information online. But yeah.
The cows strip the leaves off of it and leave the stems.
And then let's see, Bermuda grass. And anywhere that we, had mowed down or had kind of the cattle had come through and grazed, we started to see quite a bit of Bermuda grass come up as well.
Have you tried to broadcast any seed or anything, or you're just seeing all those species through management?
We have not broadcast anything.
Okay.
So all that's been through management, and kind of unintentionally, but some pastures we weren't able to graze until much later in the year, and so I guess we allowed that seed bank to expand a bit this year, and letting a lot of things go to seed, especially in pastures where it was pretty bare. And so hopefully that'll be beneficial. We did try one experiment this past year, which was we tried with our chickens and our pigs as well. It started from trying to find a cheaper feed source and seeing if we could buy grains in bulk, but then we didn't want to have to purchase a grinder to be able to grind that up to where the pigs and chickens could actually digest it. And so one of the things we found was that I guess with the modern varieties of millet and milo, you can actually feed those whole grains to chickens and pigs without really any sort of negative effects. And so we would feed that to our broiler chickens, and with kind of the intent of seeing how much success we could have with planting it, basically whatever falls on the ground, whatever they waste, having that planted and fertilized behind the chickens. And actually did have decent success with that. We kind of stumbled upon it last year when we got some feed that had some whole corn kernels in it, and found that unintentionally planted corn in our pastures, and the cattle grazed on it really well. And and so we tried to further that. So we did do, I guess, a little bit of planting, and worked fairly well. It was kind of a fun experiment to do.
Yes, very nice. Now, on your chickens, are they grazing the same pasture that you're running your cattle across?
Yeah. We've been trying to get them over as much ground as possible to try to get fertility back. And so we've got the meat chickens, which are doing like mobile range coops. Kind of like hoop houses. And then our laying hens, which they're also in a mobile coop, but it's more of I guess like a trailer on wheels, and so we have a much wider area where they can run or forage, and we've tried to get them to cover as much ground as possible in order to get that fertility back. And ideally, we would like to run them in sync with the cattle grazing. This year we weren't really able to do that based on just not being able to very strategically graze the cattle in certain areas, but hopefully this coming year we'll be able to get to that a little bit more.
How many chickens are you raising?
We do our laying hens. We do about 500 laying hens. Is what we keep throughout the year. And then our meat chickens, we do batches of 1,000 at the moment, and so that usually ends up being about 7 or 8 batches a year.
Oh, okay. How big are your hoop houses for your meat chickens?
Let's see. I think they're 20 feet wide and I think 36 feet long, just under 40 feet. But
okay. Did you build those off some plans online, or did you come up with your plan for that?
No, so we ordered. They came as a kit.
Okay.
I believe we got those from Cobb Creek Farms, and I think there's another company out there that I think they're out of Missouri that they also produce them as a kit, essentially, that you can they'll ship them to you, and you essentially just put it all together.
Oh, very nice. And your egg layers, they're in a trailer. Is it kind of the same thing?
So no, that I did build myself. The trailer is an old cotton wagon frame. So instead of just having like the axles in the middle, it's freestanding with
yes.
axles at either end of it.
Right.
And it's about 10 feet wide and 40 feet long.
Was it that long to begin with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been interesting trying to handle those, and also it was getting that transported from our old farm to our new farm.
Oh, I bet.
They came with just like a sheet metal floor, and so I took that off of that, and we put some essentially expanded metal on there so it was open so the manure would fall through, and then built the structure on top of that. And so we've got rollaway nest boxes so we can collect the eggs from the outside, and they just go up a ramp at the end and put some roosts in there and everything. And it's worked really well. I've been really happy with it. I've seen other people use the schooners, the mobile range coops for laying hens as well. At our old place, it was not very open. There was a lot of I guess low runoff areas and stuff like that. So that's kind of why we went with something on wheels there, so we could pretty much close up the chickens and move them anywhere on the property that we needed to, kind of around obstacles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So you let them free range during the day and close them up at night?
Yeah, we don't actually close them up anymore. We use some electric netting.
Oh, okay.
And then we also have a Great Pyrenees out there with them, and so between those two things, pretty well eliminated any sort of predator issues, and so we haven't had to kind of worry about making sure to open up the coop or close it up at night, which has been pretty nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, even though it's just opening and closing it. It's night and morning every day.
Yeah, it's the dependency that will wear on you for sure. We used to do that when we first did chickens. We had them in a stationary coop by the house, but we also did that with the sheep too. We would pen them up at night, and so having to know that every single day you'd have to make sure you were up to open them and there that night to put them up.
Right. On your electric netting around it, how many pieces of electric netting are you using?
4.
4. Oh, okay. So one aside, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We use. I think they come in typically 2 different lengths. We use the shorter. I think it's just 100 feet.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a little bit easier to manage. Still kind of frustrating to have to mess with it, but we just have 4 sides, and we actually, I think in total we have seven pieces, so that we set up the next pen when we move them. So when we go out to move them, we take out the separating fence and just move them all forward, so they're contained at all times. So that we don't have to chase chickens around as much.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I see. I think Justin Rhodes' videos on YouTube, and him taking up the netting, and he is so much better than I am at taking up netting. No one needs to film me doing it.
Yeah, that's probably one of my. I was hoping we'd figure out some way to do away with the netting, but we have yet to be able to do that without losing quite a few chickens.
Oh yes. In addition to your beef cows and your poultry, you also have hogs.
Mm-hmm.
How are you managing them?
So we use electric fence as well.
Now, are you using electro netting with them, or poly braid, or your aluminum wire?
Just aluminum wire.
Okay.
We're going to start using poly braid. We actually just started using it last week with them. But up until that point, it was just two strand aluminum wire. Now we did have to, we built a wooden pen and ran a wire around the base of it in order to train the pigs there before we would put them out into any sort of area to graze them. But as long as they're trained, we've never lost a pig. Even when they get out, they don't go anywhere. They know where they get the food at, and so they don't tend to venture off. I think we've actually, now that we're doing the poly braid, we've lower that down to where we're just doing a single dividing wire between the pigs, and have been able to do that successfully. So I'm not even sure that 2 wires is really fully necessary for them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we raise them in the forest. Our old place was the ground was pretty rocky. It was pretty half the property was a hillside that was just kind of shrub oak and hickory and things like that. And we raised those pigs in that area, and tried to rotate them as at least once a month to a new area. I think we probably had 4 or 5 paddocks set up. And then, but the property we're leasing now, actually, part of it, about 100 acres of it, is an established pecan orchard.
Okay.
It's been let go, so it'll be something that we were hoping to, I guess, utilize, actually produce something from this coming year. But we've got quite a bit of cleanup we need to do with it. But we have fenced off part of it to run the pigs through, and hoping to use that to manage the forage there. That's kind of been that was the primary area where we had giant ragweed, and so we're hoping that we've got them on a 1 week rotation now. So every week we move them to a new spot, and are hoping with that we can manage the ragweed quite a bit better. And then as we move into, I guess, the pecan production season, we'll move them kind of out of there to allow for that, and hoping that we can do both simultaneously without any sort of negative effects. Just because it's, I was super happy when we found this lease, especially about the pecan orchard. That says, to me, that was kind of always the ideal scenarios to be able to finish hogs in pecan orchards. And so, I'm excited to continue working on that.
Very nice. Now, one thing we didn't talk about with any of the species was your watering situation.
Mm-hmm.
How are you watering your animals?
Currently, we are transporting the water.
Okay.
So I hope to, upgrade to having water lines in the future. Really looking forward to that. But
yeah, I'm sure you are.
At the moment, initially we just did one of those IBC totes, the 300-gallon IBC totes. We would put those on the forks of the tractor and fill that up and drive it out to, whether it was the cows, the pigs, or chickens. But that got to be quite a bit of work because we weren't able to transport much water. So this year we got a hay wagon and put a 500-gallon tank on it, and then put a pump, a trash pump on that, so that we could pump that water out pretty quickly. And so we've been using that to transport the water around, and have been using like a range drinker for the pigs. The cows, just I think it's a 400-gallon steel trough.
Oh, yes.
The laying hens, we use those same IBC tanks, and we just put the little red poultry drinkers just right into the side of that, screwed the holes into that. And so that's been incredibly helpful as far as, because we can keep 300 gallons of water out there, and it seems to one tank seems to be enough to get enough water or have enough space for the entire flock. And then for our meat chickens, we have one of those IBC tanks on another hay wagon that we drag behind the coops, and then just run a hose into the coop into a PVC pipe, where we put those red drinkers into the PVC pipe so they can access it there.
All sounds like you have a plan and doing a good job with that, but I do see where you get some piping in there. You'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think we'll save quite a bit of time there, and it has limited us on the cattle at the moment, and trying to figure out how to, because we have quite a bit of pasture that we can graze. The biggest challenge right now is going to be how to effectively graze it and get water to all of those cattle at the same time. So kind of right now I'm working on a plan for that of, if we're going to try to do alleyways leading to different ponds or things like that. And try to figure out the best method there.
Oh, yes. Where do you see your farm going in the future? What's your goals?
Our goals is at the moment to kind of just continue to refine our process. I'm very happy with where we're at with our meat chickens and our laying hens, and just the quality that we're able to continue to produce on a consistent basis. And also our pigs. I'd like to move our pigs more towards just forage, and replacing as much supplemental feed as possible. That's kind of where I see improvement there. But as far as quality on our pork, I'm extremely happy with it. It's a completely different product from what our customers are used to getting in the store, and always get really good response on our pork products. And then beef is definitely the biggest area where I think we can continue to grow and expand, both in quantity and in quality.
Oh, yes.
I think grass-fed beef was probably the area that I underestimated the most in going into all of this, and that you really are working with a lot of moving parts when trying to get the proper nutrition for a cow to be able to get consistent, reliable gains and end up with a quality product that customers will really be happy with, and to do that throughout the year. There's a lot of challenges there that I can definitely see that we can continue to grow in. But yeah, for the most part, it'll just be refining our processes and expanding and kind of filling out this property we're on. I personally also really enjoy just seeing the improvement of the land itself, through the fertility of it, but also even just down to clearing out brush and trimming trees back and things like that, just making the property a more enjoyable place overall.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, and one thing we wanted to do this past year that we weren't able to do was have farm tours and have people out to see our place, and kind of share our vision and what we're doing, and so we're working to do that this year, and really hoping that we can start doing that this spring and bring people out and see what we've been working on.
Very nice. Yes. Daniel, we're to the part of our show where we ask our famous 4 questions. It's the same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. We got the idea from the Bigger Pockets podcast.
Okay.
Your first question, what's your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
For me, I would have to say Stockman Grass Farmer magazine.
Oh, yeah.
That's been incredibly useful. Definitely as far as just the networking side of it. You kind of, pretty much everybody who's involved in grass-fed production seems to go there to, whether it's, advertising a product that they've got, or the genetics or cattle or seeds, whatever it may be. It seems to be a pretty good place that everybody seems to go. And so finding those connections has been really helpful. And then also the articles that they put in, they do a great job of tailoring those articles to be relevant to, the time of year that it is, and
oh, yes.
In the winter, they'll talk about winter grazing. And so, it's been really useful resource.
Very good. It's always one of my favorite days of the month when that comes in the mailbox.
Same here.
What tool could you not live without on your farm?
I thought about this one for a little bit because, we pretty much operate with, we've got our truck and tractor, have been really significant tools. But I think actually it would be, I use a project management software,
Oh, okay.
to schedule all of the work that needs to be done, and to delegate that to other individuals. And it basically works as just a simple, it can be uh, a simple checklist. So I'll put in the different tasks and schedule them out, and that will pop up for whoever it was assigned to on their phone. As you know, hey, you need to move the cows today, and you can put instructions in there, and whatever needs to happen, and they'll go out and move the cows. And when they check that off, it'll notify me that that task has been completed.
Oh, yes.
I think one of the things that really was a huge burden starting out was just keeping track of everything in my head, and making sure I didn't forget anything, that all the animals were taken care of. The sheep were closed up at night, all of that stuff. And so, utilizing this software to schedule that out so that I no longer have to remember it and just can kind of depend on that information popping up when I need to do it, has been incredibly useful. And it's free. I use Asana is the software I use, and
Oh, okay.
there's a free version that pretty much will give you everything you need to utilize it.
Oh, that sounds good. I'm gonna have to look into that. I don't think I'm going to tell my wife about it because I don't need a checklist of things to do around here. But I am going to look into it on the farm.
It's been definitely worth every bit of it, and every bit of the time that it took to learn how to use it and
Oh, yeah.
schedule things out. It's saved me a lot as far as making sure I don't miss things.
Oh, very good. Our third question, what do you know now that you wish you knew then, or what would you tell someone just starting out?
Um, yeah, I think one thing I would definitely say would be to pursue as much as possible getting experience from other people's farms and operations. If you are really interested in doing grass-fed beef, to find a farm that's find the best producer of grass-fed beef out there, and go spend time, and even if it costs you money, it would be worth the education, worth the time to go see how that operation is run. And same if it's for chickens or if it's for everything, just to get that education, and see it at the scale that it's at, 15 years down the road as well, to give you that
Oh, yes.
perspective. I know we struggled a lot with kind of grasping the perspective of, all right, well, we can do, 10 chickens this way just fine, but that doesn't necessarily correlate when you need to do 500 chickens,
Oh, yeah.
or wash all those eggs. And so,
Yes.
seeing it at the scale or where you'd like it to be at, and being able to work backwards from there to know where to start and exactly how to start, I think is probably the most significant thing. And I think also along with that is recognizing that if you're really wanting to start a farm, to be able to see that you're also going to be starting a business, and to look at it in that perspective as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, great advice there. And Daniel, where can others find out more about you?
We have a website. It's grassrootsranch.com. And then also our Facebook page, Grassroots Tulsa, and Instagram account. So we try to keep it pretty well updated. I think we're posting things multiple times a week, just kind of updates about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then, of course, our website has got kind of information on the background on our farm, and what we do and the products we sell.
Very good. Daniel, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing about your journey.
Well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. And really, really great to hear from you.
We really appreciate Daniel coming on here and sharing about his journey. One aspect that I hope you got from it was that no matter your background, no matter if you have access to land or not, you can get started. He read a book and started learning, and then located land to lease, and started down this path. If this is something that appeals to you, today is a great day to start. A quick reminder about Ask Your Question. If there's a question you'd like to ask of one of our guests, or just someone in general, go to our website at grazinggrass.com and click on Ask Your Question and fill out the form there. We have a few questions ready. We'd like to get a few more together for a full episode of questions. You're listening to the Grazing Grass Podcast, helping grass farmers learn from grass farmers. Hey there, listeners. We appreciate you tuning in and want to continue bringing you the best content we can. But producing a podcast takes a lot of time and effort, so we need your support. You can help us out by joining the Grazing Grass community and becoming a supporter for exclusive content and early releases. Also, you can buy our merch to show your love for the show, or by using our affiliate links to purchase products or services we recommend. If you can't support us financially, please spread the word and tell others about our show. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to bring you more great conversations from grass farmers like you.